Hi everyone, Shani here and welcome back to my channel. I know I haven't uploaded in a while. I have been a little bit busy. I did have a cold for a couple of weeks and we've been heading back to Brisbane and back into town, and things have just been a little bit full on. So I'm so happy to be finally sitting down and filming another video for you guys. As promised, I am filming a breastfeeding video. So I'm actually going to split this video into two because I can imagine it's going to be quite long if I, show you guys and talk about everything that I want to in one video. So what I mean by splitting the video into two is this video is solely just going to be about breastfeeding, my experience with breastfeeding, what I learned, what I didn't know before I started to breastfeed, and products that I've used that I found really helpful in my breastfeeding journey so far. And the second video that I'm going to make is what I'm going to call maybe a breastfeeding clothes haul. So I have tons of breastfeeding clothes that I bought recently, ones that I've absolutely loved, ones that are okay, and ones that didn't work out very well. But that will be the next video. So if you guys are hoping to hear some advice on breastfeeding bras and shirts and dresses and things like that, my breastfeeding clothing haul video will be up after this one, hopefully within a week. And then I will hopefully be back on track with my uploading of videos and keeping you guys updated on what's going on. So to keep you guys updated, this week I am 12 weeks postpartum. So I'm actually going to do a video next week for my 3 months postpartum, and I'll have Maxwell with me and everything like that. But instead of doing a 12-week postpartum, I'm just going to do a 3-month one. I'm going to talk about my C-section recovery, and it's really going to be an open and honest review, I suppose, of my postpartum journey, how I've been feeling the last 3 months and how I have grown and everything that I've learned as a first-time mum. Okay, so again, I have notes on my phone just to make sure that I cover everything that I want to in this video, because the last thing I want is to come back and realize that I forgot to say something. So if you see me looking down at my phone, it's because I'm referring to my notes to make sure that I'm covering everything I wanted to. So let's just get into it, and yeah, this is my breastfeeding journey so far. So I have mentioned in my previous videos that I exclusively breastfeed my son. Some people take the term exclusively as just the breast, but I have given my son a dummy and I have given him expressed milk bottles. We do travel to Brisbane quite a lot, which can be a 6 to 7 hour drive, and rather than stopping on the middle of the highway or finding a nice place to sit and feed him, I express a bottle, I feed him the bottle in the car with me, then I just pump myself while we're in the car. Okay, so I guess we'll just start from the beginning. So I had a C-section. If you haven't watched my labour video, you would not know that, but it wasn't an emergency C-section, but it definitely wasn't planned. I had a failed induction and had to go for a C-section. So after I was out of recovery from my C-section, they laid my baby boy Maxwell down next to me and we did a side-lying feed, which is technically the position where he lies next to me as I lay on the bed. I was actually really lucky and Max had a great latch from pretty much the very start. I definitely at the beginning wasn't sure when he latched, but as soon as he did, I knew about it. He definitely tore my nipples to a new extreme. I had blistered and grazed nipples. They had bled. They were constantly being reopened when he latched and fed, and it was absolutely excruciating, but I will get onto that in a minute. My milk actually came in on night 3. So he was born at night time on Thursday night and my milk came in Sunday night. So it was technically day 3 or night 3, however you want to look at it. But I was scheduled to go home from the hospital on that Monday, but because my milk came in on the Sunday night and I did not get any sleep and Max was being extremely fussy, I stayed until Tuesday because I needed an extra day to recover in hospital. As I was mentioning earlier, because I had the C-section, I had to feed him in the side-lying position or the football hold, which is where I hold him underneath his head here and his feet towards the back. So I personally and honestly believe the reason that my nipples cracked and got so badly damaged was because of that football hold, because as soon as I wasn't I didn't have to have him in that football hold. My nipples started to heal again. The side lying was fine. When I could hold him on my front eventually and feed him, that was fine. It was really only when he was in that football hold that it was excruciating, and I guess he just wasn't latching properly, which caused the damage to my nipples. There was 2 separate lactation consultants at the hospital when I was still there who had told me that his latch was completely fine and that breastfeeding does hurt at the beginning and it's completely normal. I did have one midwife tell me that breastfeeding shouldn't hurt or you're doing it wrong, which made me feel a little bit down because it just felt like I wasn't doing things how I should, but I honestly believe that's not the case. Some women may be lucky and not experience any pain when they start breastfeeding, and I really wish I was one of those women, but breastfeeding for me at the beginning was unbelievably hard and unbelievably painful. And if I wasn't so set on breastfeeding my son, I had this really big goal in mind to breastfeed him until he was 12 months old, and I still have that goal in mind that I want to breastfeed him until he's 12 months old. But if I wasn't so set on that goal, I would have already given up and just bottle fed him. And I have no issues with mums that choose to formula feed. Breastfeeding is not for everyone, and it's definitely not for the faint-hearted when you have so many struggles like I did. But yeah, I was just really set on the goal of breastfeeding, and I'm so happy that I got through those first few weeks, and now we're, having a really good and easy breastfeeding journey. Because my nipples were really, really badly grazed and blistered, it was excruciatingly painful every time Maxwell latched, and it honestly made my toes curl, and I would close my eyes and scrunch up my face and just almost scream in agony. And every time he latched, my husband had to hold my hand because it was just unbelievably painful. And this was probably for the first maybe week to 10 days of breastfeeding, and it was really, really hard. And we went back to Brisbane, so we live about 6 hours west of Brisbane, so we went back to Brisbane to visit family for Christmas, and I was still having a lot of trouble with breastfeeding and the latch and how painful it was, and I had to breastfeed him around other people and pretend that everything was okay and just really put on a brave face even though it really, really hurt. So that was a really tough time that I went through. I also had quite a big milk supply, and I know that your milk comes in like crazy and you just feel like this massive moo cow walking around, dripping milk constantly, but I feel like I had such a massive supply of milk, and I really had a lot of colostrum as well even before I gave birth. I probably started leaking colostrum around the 24-25 week mark of pregnancy, and by the end of my pregnancy, colostrum was just dripping out of me like non-stop, like crazy. I, kept some in the freezer because it was just coming out of me, and they say not to use any nipple stimulation because it can bring on premature labour, but I really didn't need to stimulate me at all because it was just coming out by itself. So sorry for a little TMI there. Okay, so a few things happened in the first couple of weeks of Max being born with breast milk related things or breastfeeding related things. The first thing was that Max had a little bit of conjunctivitis when he was really young, maybe a week old. He started to get a bit of a gunky eye, and it lasted until about 3 weeks. But the thing that I found that got rid of it and helped him get better really quickly was breast milk. So I actually had a couple of little syringes that the hospital gave me to collect colostrum and to collect milk that was just constantly leaking out of me in hospital. But I used one of them, and I got some milk into the syringe, and I just kind of dabbed it on the inside of his nose and let it sort of fall into his eye. And it's really surprising that the milk into his eye didn't bother him whatsoever. It's like he didn't even notice that milk went into his eyeball. But yeah, that was the thing that really cleaned it and really helped it get better. And when I told the midwife and the doctor that I'd put some breast milk in his eye to help the gunkiness, they were really impressed. And yeah, they said that milk is a completely sterile fluid, and it's just as good as what they would have given him to treat conjunctivitis, and maybe even better because it's got the antibodies in it. So I was really, really happy that my milk was able to clear up his conjunctivitis, or I'm not sure if it was conjunctivitis, but it was definitely a little bit gunky, and it cleared it up, no worries. So also in the first 2 weeks of breastfeeding, I experienced blocked ducts twice, and I'm pretty sure the second time was maybe on the verge of mastitis, if not mastitis, because it was excruciating. So the first time I got it, I had a little bit of redness on my boob, and I noticed it was a little bit tender, and then throughout the day it got so bad and I had a really, really bad headache. I would even say, you know, it was as bad as a migraine, and I don't often get migraines, but that was definitely a blocked duct, and I just kept feeding from it that side of the day and pumping from this side and just making sure it was constantly emptied and trying to unblock that duct. I had a really long hot shower, I massaged it, I did everything I could, and the next day when I woke up it was much better and everything was fine again. Then the following week I had the exact same thing. I didn't have any pain to start with, but I noticed a lot of red blotchiness around at the same boob, and then throughout the day it started to get really tender and really sore, and then I got a really, really bad headache again, and I would constantly feed Max, but yeah, it just got to the point where it was excruciating. I think I had a headache for 2 or 3 days, and that boob was just in so much pain. It was really lumpy and it would just seem to not unblock. I had a really long shower, massaged it as much as I could, and eventually it did go away after 2 or 3 days. If you are watching this as a soon-to-be first-time mum, or a relatively new first-time mum, or a mum that's just interested about breastfeeding, then I'm going to talk about letdowns now. So letdowns is something that I really didn't know about until I started to breastfeed. So I had read about letdowns in articles, but I really didn't understand what they were or why they happened. But a letdown is technically where the milk that's sitting behind the milk ducts behind the nipple gets released while you're breastfeeding. So the term letdown is actually the letdown reflex. So it's a reflex in the body when you are feeding, or when you're thinking about breastfeeding, and when you're relaxed and breathing really deeply and stimulating the boob or the nipple, that's when a letdown can happen. So you might notice once you start breastfeeding, or if you are breastfeeding, maybe a minute to 2 minutes into feeding, you'll start feeling sort of, I personally feel like a stinging sensation where the boob sort of fills up, and I can feel all the ducts start filling up with milk, and then it just pours out. And sometimes Max can't handle the amount of milk. Sometimes he chokes a little bit, sometimes he pulls off and the milk just sprays all over his face or drips down my belly, but that's all part of it, I suppose. So I have some products to show you guys as well, things that I've used while I've been breastfeeding, and you know, things that have helped me through those difficulties that I've already talked about. So when I talk about cracked nipples and really, really painful latching and things like that, I use some specific creams, and I used nipple shields. So unfortunately I don't have any of my nipple shields here to show you, but I'm pretty sure I just used the Advent ones from the chemist. As for healing my cracked and damaged nipples, I started using this cocoa butter formula. It's the Palmer's cocoa butter formula nipple cream. So, or nursing butter I should say. I used this from day one and I found it really, really helpful. I'd always put it on and let them sort of dry out if I was alone in my hospital room or with my husband if no one else was around. When I used the cocoa butter nipple cream, I found it did help, but I was still getting constantly re-blistered and re-grazed every time I would feed Max. And then I was obviously searching everything, and I was trying to get advice from as many women as I could. So I was advised to get this lanolin cream. So this cream, I swear, healed my nipples within 2 or 3 days. And I would put it on after every single feed, and it's safe to feed, and so is the other cream actually. It's safe to feed even if you still have residue of it on your boobs. But this stuff, godsend, honestly. It helped me so much. I'm actually going to link everything down in the comments for you guys to be able to click on and see where I purchased it from and things like that. Okay, so going back to the fact that I had a C-section obviously meant that I couldn't feed Max having him leaning on my belly or on my front and holding him properly in the first good 4 or 5 weeks of recovery. One thing I found to be probably a godsend and really, really helpful when I was breastfeeding Max is a breastfeeding pillow. So you can sort of get any sort of support pillow that you want. There are so many different brands and designs of breastfeeding pillows out there, but I personally got this one. So this is a boppy. I'll show you guys. So it just wraps around your waist like this, and yeah, you can sit baby on here and you can breastfeed on either side. It does sit a little bit low on me and I have to sort of just have something underneath me or have my legs up to hold it up, but Either way, Max was able to lay on it and feed properly from both sides, and I was still comfortable and not having him pressed against my belly. I still use it as well, but I am able to hold him independently now and not be in any sort of pain, so that's really good. But I guess even if you didn't have a C-section, a breastfeeding support pillow is amazing. And I don't know if it's some sort of hack, but when we travel to Brisbane and it's 6 hours in the car, it's like an oversized neck pillow, and it's so comfortable, and I can just sleep while Max is sleeping, and he's a great car sleeper and pretty much sleeps the whole way. So I get to have a comfy nap as well while my husband drives. To continue talking about products and things that I've used, I still use nursing pads. So these ones are actually my favorite ones. So they're Right Aid nursing pads. Again, I'll link all these products down in the comments for you guys to be able to click on and see where I purchased them from. But these ones in particular, I found to never really leak out of. They absorb the milk really, really well. So another thing that I wanted to talk about really quickly as well is my pumping experience and, trying to save milk. And a lot of the time they tell you not to express or pump in the first 6 weeks just to regulate your milk supply. But I found because I was leaking so much milk, I felt like so much of it was going to waste that I could keep and I could use if he needed an expressed bottle for any sort of reason. My friend actually sent me this. So this is called a Haka. Or there's another one that's exactly the same called a Mamasil. I could be pronouncing that wrong. But it's just this, so I don't actually have the box for it anymore, but it's just a silicone sort of bottle cup, I guess. It has measurements on the side of it, and all you do is fold the top down like this, sort of squeeze it, and put your nipple on it, let it go so it suctions onto your nipple, and then fold that back over, and it sits nicely over the boob. And while I'm feeding on one side, I generally put this onto the other side, and when I get a letdown, the amount of milk that I get in this is pretty incredible. I can normally get between 30 to 70 mils per boob, depending how much milk, what time of day it is, and things like that. Okay, last but not least, as I said earlier, I do pump in the car when we're traveling to Brisbane just to make our trip a little bit easier. So the pump that I use is just a hand manual pump. At the moment, I'm just using a Closer to Nature hand manual pump. So it's pretty self-explanatory and it works really, really well. Also, something with this Closer to Nature pump, obviously other Closer to Nature bottles will fit it, but I found that these Tommy Tippy bottles also fit onto the bottom of the pump. So this one holds 260 ml worth of liquid. If I need to store more milk, I can use a bigger bottle, and yeah. Also, to store my breast milk, I've used 2 types of breast milk bags, which have been perfectly fine. The first ones that I used, I don't have any of at the moment, but the brand is Swispers, so I will link them down below as well. Pretty sure you can just get them from any sort of general chemist. And now I actually use the Medela breast milk bags. So these are actually designed to attach to a Medela swing pump or a Medela breastfeeding pump, but I don't use them for that. I just use them to store the breast milk. They do have, I'll show you rather than trying to explain it. They do have a hole in the top of the bag here that has the little cup that inserts to help with the pumping, but I just ignore that. Open them up, pour the milk in, and keep them in the freezer. They haven't leaked on me so far, and they've been doing really well. So I actually only got these because they come in a pack of 50. A lot of the other packs that I find come in 20, 30, but this was a bigger pack that came in 50, so I won't go through them as quickly as I will with the other packs. So I think that is about it for what I've got to talk about with my breastfeeding journey so far, products and things that I've used that have really, really helped me out with breastfeeding, and I will make a separate video for clothing that I have bought and used for breastfeeding. I will give you guys a little quick example right now because I am wearing one of my breastfeeding t-shirts. So as you can see, it just looks like a plain black t-shirt, but the benefit of this t-shirt is it's got a zipper. So I'm obviously wearing one of my breastfeeding bras as well that I will talk about, but it has a zipper and it goes all the way across, and you can unzip from both sides. So if you just want to unzip half of it on this side and the other half on this side, they both unzip. So I really, really like t-shirts like this, dresses and stuff that I have that have zippers as well. I will show you guys in that video as well. I will link everything in the comments for you guys to be able to click on the link and have a look at where I got them from and their prices and things like that. So I hope to see you guys in that video as well. But thank you so much for watching, and I'm really excited to start really getting into filming these videos more often. And yeah, next week I will be filming my 3-month postpartum. I will have Maxwell with me, and I'll be talking about my true and honest journey through my postpartum experience as a first-time mum. So I'll see you guys then, and thanks for watching. Bye.